Welcome to Stock and Roll, the podcast where we deep dive into the world of equity compensation. This is the first out of two in our short series on benchmarking. Today we're talking about benchmarking in general, what it is, why you need it, and what competitive equity packages actually look like in the market. We even discuss key differences between the US and here in Europe. I'm joined by Michael Sterchi in Zurich, who is a leading expert in equity incentive plan design with extensive experience advising companies across Europe on everything from LTI structures to broad-based employee share plans. Whether you're implementing your first equity plan or rethinking an existing one, this conversation is packed with practical advice. Let's dive in. Now we're up for another podcast. Again with you, Michael. Yeah. Again close to Zurich, and again it's sunny, so it's strange, yeah? Today we are going to dive a bit into a topic which might sound a bit niche and narrow, but still super interesting, I think. It's benchmarking. So first off, you and benchmarking, how much do you do it? How important is it? And how do you kind of work with benchmarking typically?
I think it's quite an important part, especially if it comes to design of an equity plan. If you have no equity plan, if you come, as we discussed last time, from an unlisted to a listed company, and of course, if you would like to have something new, if you change your LTI, if you change, or if you would like to implement a broad-based plan, I think it's important to have at least an idea of what others are doing.
Yeah.
And for this, you use benchmarking.
Yeah.
Therefore, I think it's really important. So you have at least the idea in which direction it goes. So, and of course, this is what I normally do with my clients. I do a kind of a workshop where I invite all the stakeholders.
Yeah. And what are the stakeholders?
The stakeholders are, let's say, representative from the shareholders. This is them. If you are listed, this is normally the board. If you are non-listed, it is your investor.
Yeah.
You should have, of course, the management.
Yeah.
Someone from the management. So CFO is normally involved, or is let's say the owner of the project.
Yeah.
And of course then HR.
Yeah.
HR should drive normally this project.
Yeah.
And it would also be good to have some representative from the employees.
Yeah.
Because they can tell you then in this workshop, this could be attractive for us, or it is not attractive for us. And then, of course, in this workshop, you will have then a discussion, and the idea is then to find at the end the right new plan or the change of the plan or whatever is the status in the company. And basically, you go through then all the elements which has to be considered, starting with the design, with the legal, with the compliance, tax, accounting, and all this stuff which has to be considered. And of course, also the benchmark.
Yeah.
Of course, then it would be, I normally then present, when I have benchmarked, normally you have for listed companies, you have benchmark, you have surveys, you have studies, which are published. We did our own in the past. We will do also again one in the future, where you can really then show, okay, what are others doing? So that are your competitors. So that is the plan design. They have the type. The type of plan. Is it a stock plan? Is it a RSU plan? Is another type of plan a performance share units, which are very popular at the moment, so that you can show what are they doing, and also of course the KPIs, the vesting conditions, and all this. And I think this is information which is very, very helpful if you do the design. And therefore benchmarking is a key element.
So what do you want to kind of do with benchmarking? Is that then, if I try to summarize, is how many do this and this instrument type?
Yes.
And then how many or how much do they give away?
Yeah.
the difference perhaps between the different roles. Time you mentioned, like vesting periods, like what is a common vesting period, may be interesting. Are there any other kind of top of mind things, like do they care about how you put value? Is it a number of instruments, or do you go that deep into it? Or?
Yeah, of course, with the value normally, then you go more into the total compensation area.
Yeah.
And of course, this is then you also have data. So let's say HR advisors, they have data available, so that you really have then the grade with the grading. You normally can also put the figure, and then you also have a kind of it's also benchmarking there. This is then more the total compensation. And if it goes to equity compensation benchmarking, of course, then you try to find the ratio in your industry. Which part is cash and which part is equity. And then, of course, for some grades, you have the information with regards to the listed companies, the executives. So they are published in the compensation report. You know what the CEO is earning. So you can really demonstrate in your benchmark what is a CEO getting in this industry, on the small cap, on a DAX or on a blue chip type. So the different segments of a stock exchange, you can get out this information, and you put this normally into benchmarking, and also for the board. I see often that we have then the board. You can also easily find this information into the compensation report. If you go to the, let's say, the other executive, CFO, at HR. Of course, you only have the total number. There you get less information, and you get less information the lower level you go. So then I get a lot of questions. How deep should we go? So which level should get it? It's only grade 1. It's only grade 2, or so that is what I experience, and that is something which is it is nice to have, but it's quite hard to get this information because the companies don't have to report this, and normally it's not public what grade are involved. Of course, by experience, if you advise clients, then you know. From your heart, but it's more the feeling rather than you can come with hard figures
and document it. It's like you touched a bit upon it here, but the source of finding this data, kind of on some things you have like HR providers that have some data points or so, but how do you typically collect the relevant data first in like a listed environment, and then perhaps what do you do in a non-listed environment but starts listed?
In the listed environment for the LTI, I think it's quite an easy thing to get, because as I mentioned before, you have the compensation report. You can get out the information. Of course, sometimes it's quite hard then to put this together, because compensation reports are still structured very different. So, and then you really have to manage that you get the right information together from the different type how this is presented into the compensation report. But but this information is available, and that is something we are doing, or we did in the past, that we just go through the compensation reports and just get the information out of it. Now, and if you go then more into the area, as I mentioned before, which grade should get, that is something which you might have some information if there is a compensation report, which also consider or also involve what they are doing for others. And it's getting also difficult to get really detailed information if you implement broad-based plans. Because this is something which do not have to be published.
Because I think still it's like, what do you want to know is like how many should be included in the broad-based plans, everyone or not, and then like how much should people be allowed to invest and how often, and then also a bit about the pickup rates, like how many do actually participate, what is a good expected pickup rate, because you need to estimate how many shares you use and things. And I think this is a very tough thing to find the good data on often.
I think what I see And I think also Geo did some surveys, and it's then on a survey space where you get this information. You really go to your companies or to the issuers, which are members of the Global Equity Organization, and then just to do the survey. And then I think one of the questions is also, what is your pickup rate? And this is another a source of information you can then really get access.
Do you ever do like in-depth qualitative interviews or kind of gather info on behalf of a client? Because it can be like you want to deep dive into these 4 companies, and then do you do service yourself as well, or do you know anyone that do that? Or?
Yeah, we do ourselves. I do it with a colleague of mine at the University of Cambridge. He's doing a lot of these things for me. He has a research team. Of course, he can also use students to go into this, especially if we do really, let's say, tailor-made kind of benchmark. So where you really have, let's say, special questions, how you treat retirement in your plan. Is it an accelerated vesting? Is it pro rata vesting? Or what is it? So this type of information, then you have really then a tailor-made focus, and you have a few questions, and you try to get this out wherever you get the information. And again, you get this information from surveys. Or then from the compensation report.
I think this is very hard and also quite important. One question that kind of that struck my mind right now was that, like, how do people treat maternity leave and paternity leave? We've had some cases where that is a clause vesting, versus in some jurisdictions that's an absolute no to do that, right? So getting some info on, but your gut feel on that, is that the thing that companies do or not? And not necessarily related to benchmarking, but
sometimes we have discussed this, but I already know I did not for maternity leave, not yet. But for early retirement, I did some special benchmarking. And what other question? Good leaver, bad leaver was also sometimes how do you treat these different deaths, invalidity versus termination. I think these are the things where you then go more important. Even for the non-listed company, this is one of the key points. But also for the listed companies. But basically, this is one of the things. I think it's quite challenging to get this information. Really.
I think you have to deep dive into it on a survey or a qualitative basis.
I think at the end the survey, because in the compensation report most likely you will find nothing.
Is there any differences in benchmarks and the findings in benchmarks the way you see if it's US based or Europe based?
Yeah, definitely. You see the differences. I think. US is still very hard focus on stock options. This is one of the things you find in the benchmark. You see, of course, this is also from the Silicon Valley industry. This is one. Europe is going a little bit more into the RSUs, payers use performance stock unit area, more into the share area. You can see these trends, and this is, for example, Geo also presents a survey every year where they really also focus on the difference between Europe and the US. But my experience is really the US are very, very much focused on stock exchange. And if it comes to the broad-based plan, of course, they have this discounted purchase plan, which is with the 15% discount, because this is a tax favorite. And I think maybe the European part is more a little bit the share matching plan. And then if you have, let's say, a company which have big population in the US and in Europe, you often get very challenged to put these two cultures together. So are we doing now a matching plan, or are we doing now a discounted share purchase plan? And you see there, and this is one example of a big difference what I experienced in the past. So.
And I guess, like, if you have have these kind of US and European kind of significant amount of people in both, then you should kind of look at benchmarks for both individually, because you would have to kind of compete on talent in the markets they are.
Well, of course. Yeah, but you even, especially for this pro-pace plan, you even know the result because it's clear. So if you have the benchmark then in front of you, you can clearly demonstrate that US companies, they have discounted purchase plan, and a lot of European, they have the share matching plan.
And obviously the findings, I would assume, is higher values, bigger chunks and everything, at least for executive positions in US versus here in Europe.
Yeah, that's from then the LTI, of course, then you see also the ratio might be also a little bit different. So in the US, it might be a little bit more in equity rather than in Europe. But
who should we compare ourselves with if we're a company? Should we look at benchmark on like the stock exchange as a whole? Should we look into specific companies that do exactly what we do, or other companies that may attract the same talent, try to attract the same talent? And just your thoughts on like what is comparable, what are we actually benchmarking against?
Yeah, I think, of course, you have the stock exchange, but then the stock exchange, you might have the different segment. If you have a small cap, if you have the blue chip company, I think that is something you can consider. What I experienced in the past, that often I get a request, so really focus on the competitors.
Yeah.
This is the competitor list, or you can already see it if you have a KPI focusing return on investment, or you compare it. Total shareholder return is the best example. Normally, most companies, as in Switzerland and in Europe, they have one of the KPIs. You have to be somehow ranked into these TSR metrics, and if you are on the first position, you get 100%, or no, 150%, and if you are in the middle, you get 100, and if you are below the middle, you get nothing. So this type of things, and then you can take this. Basically, you can take this list and then say, okay, we do now we're focusing, just looking on these competitors which you have in your TSR list. And then just go into a deep, it's a benchmark. At the end, you look again at the compensation report, for example, all the data you get. How do your competitors compensate their executives and their talents?
When it comes to benchmark, and how important would you see benchmark is when deciding a program? Is it like, this is what the competitors do, let's do that? Or is it like other things that should come into play? Like, how would you weigh findings from a clear benchmarking into the total consideration?
I think it's important to have an idea with the benchmarking, but at the end, you also have to focus on your own business. And basically, you have to, if you have a different culture, maybe if your benchmark analysis is saying, okay, my competitors, they have all RSUs, but maybe this is not our company culture. We would like to be more into stock, whatever reason it is. Just as an example, because we would like to have real shareholding at the very beginning. It could be one reason. So maybe then we should really go and listen to our heart and say, okay, we follow our company culture. And of course, finally, also our business goals. We have to follow our business goals. And I think that's, at the end, it's the most important thing to do, that to focus really on the business plan we have, on the KPIs we have in our business plan, that we really follow this. Also, if the benchmark might be saying something completely different.
I also experience a bit that like it's more of like knowing and sometimes justifying that what you suggest is okay, right? At least not extremely contradictory to what others are doing, instead of just saying this is a benchmark, let's do this at least, because it's
I think it's also an important point. Of course, you are against your proxy advisors and also the board, which challenge HR. I think it's important that you can also demonstrate, look, these are all the doing.
Yeah.
And these are the reason why we follow this and why we don't follow, and we have our own things. And some companies or some board is very open to this, to say, okay, that's the benchmark.
Yeah.
But we are different. We are doing this and this way.
And I guess also like here, it's important to put it into play with the total compensation. If it's a company that have typically like are among the 10% with highest base salary.
Yes.
And then you compare with a competitor that are kind of on the lower 10, just as an example, obviously like you would need to compensate to be on par. And if you only isolated look at the equity, then it would be very off. So you need that as well. Yes. Do you see that you do benchmarking when you do, let's say you design an LTI plan and you want to pull benchmarking in? Do you benchmark and put both base, bonus, pension and equity into the same? Or is it more like an ask of now we want to do our LTI? Because often that's designed on a different time, right? But
yeah, I think from a total compensation point of view, you consider what is total compensation, what is usually paid as a total compensation, and of course then you're starting thinking about what is the ratio.
Yeah.
And then, of course, then you go into the next level and saying, okay, what is the important or what is the type of plan we are using, or what are the KPIs we are using? How looks the design of our plan? So I think that's a little bit how it works. So you, of course, then I experience even I had a few projects where the company started to rethink about total compensation as a whole. And then they started with the project base salary. It's easy. You have certain studies from HR providers. You can get all these different level of payment. And then the next step is that they're thinking about their bonus scheme.
Yeah.
So the short-term incentive.
Yeah.
And then they redesigned the short-term incentive with already having the focus on doing then, okay, we also have to change our LTI.
Yeah.
And then sometimes you have to manage and you have to decide what part of your company goals should be into the short term and what should be in the long term. Of course, it's obvious. Normally, the long-term goal should be in the long term. In the LTI, in the short term, should be in the short term. Sometimes it's not a clear cut. So,
no, I fully agree. It's always a challenge with non-listed companies. Do non-listed companies look at listed companies as benchmarks, or is it possible to find benchmark on companies that are still private?
Yeah, I think this is a big challenge because data is not available.
No.
Okay, what you can do basically is you can do a survey and just asking non-listed company. But what I experienced, they have not enough time to answer really this survey, so they have a lot of other things to do. And of course, you can then say, okay, let's make it easy. Just take some listed companies. Of course, we do. Yeah. We do. We look at listed companies. Of course, sometimes it's a little bit challenging because from the size.
Yeah.
It makes really sense if you already have quite a mature non-listed company that you compare with listed company.
Yeah.
But if you're really startup,
it doesn't really
it makes no sense. No. You just have let's say experience.
Yeah.
And of course, no hard data.
Yeah.
But what I also experience a lot, the board members, some of the board members from the investor side, especially if there are professional investors, they already have a good sense.
Yeah.
And especially if they invest in a certain industry, they already have some good ideas what should be done. And I think this could be then sometimes even the better way to go into. Of course, you can always challenge this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because if you then have, let's say, one investor just doing with all their investments in the same way, and this is not the right way, maybe then you also get wrong at the end. But
I think there's also a couple of Index Venture, the VC or the investment company, they have something called Rewarding Talent, which is, I'd say, perhaps the best source. I know Carta is doing quite a lot as well, but obviously it's a challenge if it's very US centric, because then it's not really that relevant here in Europe. But at least it's a couple of fairly good attempts on gathering some data. But fully agree, it's super difficult to find relevant info here.
Data, sometimes it's even privacy, so they don't want to share the data, and then it's also something that they not fill the survey. So
100%. Well, good. I think we've covered a lot of things here. Obviously, benchmarking is super complex and important. And the last thing I wanted to kind of touch a bit upon is, like, it's a typical question in all sort of dialogues nowadays on AI. Have you kind of explored how that can change kind of finding and collecting data, or do you think it will in the future, or just your thoughts on status on that?
I think it will in the future, definitely, because now it's still done manually. As I mentioned before, I'm working with the University of Cambridge. There a student sits in front of the report, goes through the reports. I think if you find there an algorithm which is doing this on his own, so basically this is one of what I think will happen in the future. But this and of course then IA can help very much to really make it more efficient, to use less resources. Of course, since, as we touched before, these compensation reports sometimes looks difficult. It's also for IA still difficult to then really do the correct interpretation of how something is described into a compensation report. But definitely this will help. But at the end, and this is again the same, I think IA is perfect if you have really also good data. If you don't have good data, you don't get good results.
It's pretty much impossible. And I also think that, like, one thing is gathering the data, another thing is like making use of it. So I think AI can have a good thing in, like, as long as things are quite standardized and you manage to teach it well enough, then you can get a lot of data, but you will still be able to read it and get it into practice from there. So But great, Michael. Again, this has been super interesting topic, and you definitely are a library on benchmarking. So I appreciate it a lot, and looking forward to see you.
Thank you to be here at the nice lake of Zurich with the sun. I ordered the sun for you today.
Perfect. It definitely arrived. Good. Then speak later. Thank you.